So you can see a lot of screenshots from New Life specifically. This is the New Life logo of that time. And this is me at our location in Bali. Our location meaning I'm guided to build a community in that location at some point, before 2030s. The way that I work is very intuitive. I post things that resonate with me. Yes, I love Mary Kate Mansfield's. I think they're great. And this is Bali. I love this feature on Instagram when it started to appear, is that you can post several photos in a gallery. I think this is nice. Also, a way to practice our curation skills. These are all memories from Bali time. I'm a professionally trained energy healer, Reiki certified, all levels, and I'm also a professional Thai body massage therapist and Ayurveda therapist and yoga teacher. Yes, all of that in one. And I work with energy. Everything that I do is energy work. Even what you see now is energy work. It's all intentional. Content creation is digital shamanism. When I post things online, I set a very strong intention for that content to communicate truth, unity, and balance. And to me, balance meaning dynamic balance. It cannot just be still. Like water in our system, we are about 75% of water. We can't always be balanced because our system is dependent on the planets around us, specifically the moon being the fastest body, the planetary body, basically, that is rotating around the Earth with the days, and within 2.5 days it changes its placement. So our bodies are reacting to that. The water in our bodies reacts to displacements, and that's what I'm also promoting with my work, is that we are completely shifting our scheduling, and the work that we do these days. Hello to my childhood. The work that we do these days is deeply connected with the moon, with the moon shifts and movements, because what is balanced also to me, balance is a balance between our masculine and feminine sides, which means our cognitive, our structural, our more rational side, that is masculine, and the creative, fun, childish, non-linear side of us, that is feminine. And the humanity has been out of balance for a long time now, and it's time that we experience balance within ourselves first, and then we communicate that to our collective, those that are closest around us, those that we enjoy to be around, and those that we cherish. Oh yes, a goose is the name of this goose in Bali. Charlie's Chocolate Factory. This is my friend. We became digital friends before it was cool. So yeah, we never seen each other in person, but we've been very close. This is all from Bali trainings. This is at home. Yes, so this is May 13, 2020. Me posting things on Instagram still, even though most of the time I would spend on a New Life and post everything there actually during this time. The way that I post is very intuitive. Sometimes I would, create a caption. Sometimes I would simply post something without explaining my work. I really love my work on Instagram. I think it's very diverse.
Even this.
And at the same time, I have lost around 1,000 followers during the year 2020. I've been going live a lot, and you'll see, because I felt like it was a great way to communicate my truth and to train myself in public speaking, and to train myself to be a teacher. Here's that historical life that I didn't know that it's going to be saved, but the Instagram I created. That's exactly 1 month ago last year. I created the feature where you can actually save your lives as IGTV. So let's go and look at it.
Oh no.
We can't hear. I mean, I can't hear it from my side. I don't know if you can hear it, but you got the idea. Yeah, and you know how long it is? Okay, 46 minutes of long time. yeah, this is all me speaking spiritual truth, philosophy. I would educate you on astrology. I would educate you on a variety of different topics in spirituality, but I also will just go about my day and just, be present with myself, drink cacao, have a ceremony, talk with the spirit, and present this kind of work to you.
Wow.
Oh, this is me going live in Manhattan. You see how empty it is? Times Square is never that empty usually. And this is me riding the bicycle for 38 minutes till the downtown. I call my content, everything that I post, as quantum content, meaning that it's all becoming part of history. As I create content, I remember it from the future. And by that I mean, oof, so nice. Is this Bali? Bali, yeah. You see, laboratory of quantum communications presenting new glimpses into some of my life's works. Metalli.ai. The reason why is .ai is because AI is ancient intelligence, and I'm tapping into our ancient intelligence, the ancient intelligence of the humanity, and that is all intuitive work. This is all channeling. Yes, I'm also learning and reading books that have to do with Lemuria, Atlantis, and other
Atlantis
ancient
intelligence.
civilizations that are not really included in traditional education systems. And the dot, meaning that being the dot, according to one of the greatest spiritual teachers that I worked with, Feel Good. Yes, his name is Feel Good. He says being the dot
One of those
is
greatest
being
ones.
present moment every single moment of the day, being that, and that's what I train to be. It's how
That's
I operate.
nice.
It's been almost 2 years.
I love the, this like low res aesthetic. I think it's really nice. I think there's something powerful in that.
Another life. Let's see which one is that. 50-minute long. Wow. Drinking cacao. Dressing up for lives was fun. I really enjoyed. And this was all also part of the New Life merchandising strategy, is because all of these lives are so. A screenshot of that, yes. Screenshot meaning that I remembered it from the future, and I'm going to be making a post of that at some point. This is me at the dance competition when I was back, then being a little child, professionally trained to be a professional dancer, and I grew up to be that. And you'll see a lot of my dance videos at some point. Another life. Okay, let's see. This one is 44 minutes. I'm doing a lot of meditation work, a lot of guidance.
Wow, this is cool.
A lot of channeling, and this is all triggering to a lot of people. I had a lot of people unfollow me simply because
Photography is better than AI. The question I have for you, is it real?
For everyone just yet.
Or is it AI? That's the question I got. Do we trust the space narrative?
I love that because, again, showing Manhattan so empty is really, really unusual.
It just looks so different,
And scary. I mean, we all remember.
Yeah, sure, it's like kind of similar aesthetic, but it's so different that it's kind of... I mean, the clouds on Earth also look different. That's normal, because they're constantly moving. I guess that's that.
Dinner portals from his place in San Francisco, and inviting really epic people from the conscious community, from the purpose-driven and impact community, to be part of these amazing circles. And I've been part of
I'm
that.
not hiring a designer. I'm designing everything. That's the thing.
And you see how many.
I don't like the ego of designers, and at the same time, I've been a designer, so, can do it. Another thing is that all these like designers that I connect with, I guess, are all working in digital format, and I want to have everything done in physical. So I'll be printing out these images of this planet, and I'll be, drawing on them, doing this whole aesthetic. Yeah, so I need to print out a lot in order to start really putting things out there. But look at the colors. I mean, the colors are incredibly gentle and beautiful, and the combination is just so stunning. And also so natural as well. Like, it's nothing that is manufactured. And it's just also so mystical. Right? Like, it's energy, That's how energy, exactly how it looks like. How it flows. How it transforms. Incredible. Droopy. Droopy droop. Do you want to listen to my voice from that time still? Trying to be good for you.
Of language that I've been also developing, and that's been much more fun for me than using the old school tarot. Oh, this was really fun. 31st of May in New York. I finally found them at some point. The Burners. We had the whole Burning Man community basically meet in Manhattan and bike together. We still can't see them, but we're there. So that was interesting. It was kind of a night thing.
I don't like the sound of the screenshots, huh?
Life. Let's see. My type A fashion. Yeah, so I would.
I'm really postponing the text aspect of this. Organization. I need to do this whole write-up of what's happening. And I'm really, really postponing, I guess, getting really inspired by the planet itself. Also, I've been listening to this.
Is at least 50 kilometers thick. This is where all the volcanism originates.
About the moons of
Which brings us to perhaps the most interesting part about Io, the hundreds of huge volcanoes all over its surface.
What a good name,
Before the 1970s, we didn't know much about Io at all, although telescopes were starting to pick up hints that the moon was devoid of water and that it may have a surface of sulfur. The first mission to see Io in any kind of detail was Pioneer 11, although the quality was still not great. What it did detect, however, is that Io was made of silicate rock and not water ice, and that it has a thin atmosphere. Pioneer 10 was also meant to take some close-up shots of Io, but this was lost due to Jupiter's radiation interfering with the onboard command system. The radiation Pioneer 10 went through was 10,000 times stronger than the maximum radiation around the Earth. The next missions to Jupiter were the Voyager 1 and 2 missions in 1979. Voyager 1 flew by at a distance of only 20,000 kilometers and was able to take some impressive close-ups of Io's surface. What it saw was a remarkable landscape full of vibrant colors and a total absence of impact craters. It found mountains taller than Everest, as well as volcanic pits hundreds of kilometers wide, and what looked to be lava flows. Most notably, however, was the presence of plumes coming from the surface. This proved that Io is volcanically active, and it is still the first and only place this has been visibly seen beyond Earth, not including cryovolcanoes. Voyager 1 also confirmed that the surface of Io is covered in different sulfur frosts. This is what gives Io its many spectacular colors. It found that it is these sulfur compounds that dominate the atmosphere. Voyager 2 also saw Io in July of 1979, but was much further away at 1 million kilometers. Although
almost all the photos are from 2017 somehow, which is interesting because it's been an interesting year generally for me personally.
those 4 months. The really interesting images came about with the Galileo spacecraft that arrived at Jupiter in 1995. The spacecraft wasn't especially designed to study Io, but it was able to acquire some of the highest resolution images we now have of its surface. Sadly though, Galileo never worked at full capacity, as it had quite a few mechanical malfunctions, which means we could have had even better images had it been fully operational. What it was able to see though were plumes from many volcanoes, as well as confirming the volcanoes were erupting sulfur and silicate magmas, similar to what we have on Earth, except the magma on Io is also rich in magnesium. The surface of Io is spectacularly colorful. The yellow plains are composed of mainly sulfur. The white areas are mainly fresh sulfur dioxide frosts. Towards the poles, the sulfur is damaged by radiation, which can be seen as the poles appear redder than the rest of the planet. In other places, the colors of red are the deposits left by volcanic plumes that reached hundreds of kilometers above Io. The most obvious deposit is from the volcano Pele. Sadly, an inactive volcano when Galileo was around, but Voyager 1 was able to see a massive plume when it passed by. In this image, this plume is 300 kilometers tall and 1,200 kilometers wide. In other words, roughly the size of Alaska. Interestingly though, the source of lava flows on Earth are typically the depression you would normally see at the top of volcanoes. But these depressions are not found on high peaks on Io. Instead, you have these lava lakes with high walls along the outside. Here is Loki, the largest volcano depression on Io, 200 kilometers in diameter. These lakes are directly connected to the lava reservoir below, but usually have a thin layer of solidified crust on top. On average, Loki produces 25% of the average heat output of Io.
So good. Yo, like, this is, you can't make it up. Like, you can't just design this thing, you know what I mean? Nothing can be designed. I'm hoping, I'm really trusting that those are legit pictures taken of a freaking planet, Earth, or this, excuse-moi, the largest planet of the whole solar system, which, you know, is by default cooler than Earth. Let's be honest. Jupiter. Let's see if there are any ETs living on there. How about that? I'm absolutely imagining it possible. Маловероятно. Инопланетные существа на Юпитере. How about that? Юпитерианцы, точно. Ну, 100% они есть. Ну, камон. Видишь, какие вон, смотри. Юпитерианцы. Конечно. Еще как. Смотри, какие. Бжж. да? По-любому. Не, ребят, ну 100%. I have very, very big trust that Jupiterians exist. What is this? Jupiter clouds vibe. Of course, and, you know, it's obvious. Jupiterian. I love. The design of Pinterest is so terrible. It's really terrible somehow. Nice. God, this whole like website design. Please stop moving top part. Like, come on, like so annoying. So yeah, it's Juno taking photos. Cosmos. Gumanoide.
Let's first of all see where Europa fits into the Jovian system. Europa is the second and smallest of the 4 Galilean moons, although it's still the
So
6th
cute, this
biggest
one, right?
moon in the entire solar system, just behind Earth's moon, with a diameter of about 3,000 kilometers. It takes Europa 3.5 days to orbit Jupiter once. Interestingly, the first 3 Galilean moons, Io, Europa, and Ganymede, are locked in a 4-2-1 orbital resonance due to their gravitational influence with each other. This orbital resonance and the constant gravitational tugging from the other moons keeps the orbit of Europa from ever becoming completely circular. Due to Europa's slight ecliptical orbit, the magnitude of the gravitational force acting on it from Jupiter increases and decreases as it orbits. This creates tides that stretch the moon's surface. These forces are significant as they have a big influence on the moon's appearance and what goes on under the surface. Europa's surface is made predominantly of water ice. As you can tell, it looks very remarkable and distinctive due to these long, continuous fractures and cracks. These are called lineae, which translates to lines in Latin. These lineae are often only about 1 to 2 kilometers wide, but can extend for thousands of kilometers across the moon's surface. We aren't sure how or why these lineae are formed at present,
Roads.
but the most likely theory is that as the crust pulls apart from tidal flexing, warmer material from beneath fills the gap, in a similar fashion to the ocean ridges on Earth. In this image taken by the Galileo spacecraft, you will notice some dark brown spots. They are very small, only about 10 kilometers across, and they are known as lenticulae.
They are also believed to be formed by the upwelling of hot, less dense material to the surface, either by pushing the existing crust up or by breaking through altogether. Should the underground material have broken through, what we can then see are these strange, unusual terrains called chaos terrains. They are really rough patches surrounded by a rather smooth surface. These spots are expected to be soft and may contain significant information about what's under Europa's surface, which we will get to later in the video. Data from Galileo also indicated that Europa's equator may be covered in icy spikes called penitentes.
Cute.
These vertical cracks may be up to 15 meters high and will have formed from direct overhead sunlight on the equator. Interestingly, penitentes are found on Earth too, in dry regions at high altitudes, although nowhere near as large as on Europa. Despite being roughly the age of the solar system, Europa barely has any craters. Europa has less than 50 major craters, whereas the Earth's moon has more than 5,000 craters with a diameter above 25 kilometers. This indicates that Europa's surface is constantly changing and reforming. Models suggest that Europa's surface is only about 30 to 180 million years old, which is very young in geological terms. Additionally, Europa's icy surface is the smoothest surface of any known solid celestial object in the entire solar system. Its icy crust also has an albedo or light reflectivity of 0.64, one of the highest of all the moons. Europa's albedo makes it 5 times brighter than our moon. The surface is bombarded by a constant and intense blast of radiation from Jupiter. The radiation level at the surface of Europa is equivalent to a dose of about 5,400 millisieverts per day. Exposure to radiation at that level would be enough to kill a human in a single day. The reddish-brown color spread across the cracks and fractures of the moon is believed to be due to salt and sulfur compounds mixing with water ice and then modified by Jupiter's radiation. A recent study from JPL suggests that Europa might even glow in the dark. Energetic ions from the radiation penetrates the surface, which would energize the molecules beneath, which would make them release energy as visible light. Unfortunately, we cannot see Europa's dark side from Earth, as we are between it and the Sun always. So we are going to have to wait for future missions to Europa before we can prove this. Radiation received from Jupiter plays a significant role in Europa's atmosphere as well. Europa has a very tenuous atmosphere, composed primarily of oxygen. Unlike on Earth, the oxygen on Europa is formed by radiolysis, or in other words, the process of radiation bombarding the water ice surface, separating the H2O into oxygen and hydrogen. Hydrogen escapes Europa's gravity altogether because it's so light, whereas a lot of the heavier molecular oxygen remains. The hydrogen and oxygen that escape Europa's gravity form a dispersed neutral cloud, which follows the orbit of Europa around Jupiter. In 2012, the Hubble Space Telescope discovered plumes of water vapor erupting from Europa's south pole. This image suggests that the water plumes rise up to 200 kilometers from its surface. In 2018, astronomers found additional evidence of water plume activity on Europa when they looked back at the old Galileo data with a new data analysis technique. A dedicated mission studying these plumes can also help us understand what's inside the moon without having to land on it. Because what may lie underneath that solid ice surface is perhaps the most fascinating thing about Europa. There is likely to be a global ocean between a rocky mantle and the water ice crust. The first clue that this amazing ocean world was hidden under its surface was provided by the Voyager and Galileo probes in 1979 and the late 1990s, respectively. Between these missions, there was a drastic change in the magnetic field of the moon, which is not possible unless there is some electrically conductive fluid beneath its surface.
Colors.
Europa's crust also indicates the presence of a liquid layer beneath it, as it rotates with an angle of 80 degrees, which is not possible if the crust and rocky mantle were mechanically attached. Instead, it is likely that the icy crust floats on the ocean, and it is believed to make one full rotation around the moon once every 12,000 years. The fact that this ocean is not attached also explains the multitude of lineae on the surface. Tidal flexing should cause lineae to form at specific points on Europa, not all over. However, because the position of the crust changes over time, and one spot never stays in the same place for long, hence why more and more lineae form. Europa is 780 million kilometers away from the Sun, which is 5 times further away than the Earth. That makes the sunlight about 25 times fainter here. As such, Europa, or any other moon in the Jovian system for that matter, barely receives any heat from the Sun. So unsurprisingly, it's cold enough here that the surface is frozen. In fact, Europa's surface temperature averages about minus 160 degrees Celsius at the equator and minus 220 degrees Celsius at the poles, keeping Europa's icy crust as hard as granite. However, tidal pressures exerted on the moon as it orbits Jupiter heats Europa's core, so geothermal activity from the core should keep the subsurface ocean in a liquid state.